Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is CJ. I want to welcome you guys back to the channel. It's going to be episode 3 of the JBJ 65 gallon reef build. It's going to be a very important update and also the final pre-build, pre-aquascaping, pre-cycling of the tank type of update. This is it. After pulling out the tank, finally taking some time to do some wire maintenance and hopefully making future maintenance a little easier as far as removing equipment without things being tangled and it's just a complete mess behind the tank. I was able to finally add water to the system. Now this is just tap water. This is just a water leak test. I'd rather find this out now if this tank has any issues before I invest salt water and all kinds of money down the road only to find out that it's leaking, right? Common sense, but I want to make sure that I share everything on this build. Don't want to skip anything because I know there's some new people in the hobby that literally are following this build step by step, and I'm hoping that this gives you guys some insight, some tips, also gives you some ideas as far as what you can do on your system as you're going through your build process. But the main goal, make sure the tank's not leaking and also make sure all of the equipment is running. Keep in mind, a lot of this equipment needs water. You can't turn on pumps when they're dry, so ideally you want to find this out earlier than later. Now, as much as I love the look of a clean rimless tank, I'm reminded how much of a pain it is when you clean the glass. My last tank was Eurobrace, so I can really get aggressive with the mag float. On this one, quickly reminded, too much splashing, too much aggressiveness is going to end up with water streaking outside the tank. So FYI, be careful with mag floats or any rimless tank when you're trying to clean the glass. Water in the tank, all of the equipment turned on. So far so good. So I'm gonna give you guys a quick rundown on everything running on the tank and hopefully give you an idea of what you can try putting on your system and what you don't need, because like I said before, a lot of the accessories on this tank are exactly what I meant, accessories, not necessities to have success, but I have it on here, so I'm gonna give you guys a quick look on how it's running. So first impressions of using the sump socks on the JBJ. To be honest, I'm not impressed. I'm pretty sure they're going to do the job, but they allow a lot of water splashing, a little more noise than I'm actually wanting to have. So I may end up modifying these things sooner than later. Maybe some kind of acrylic cup or, just using a sponge in this place. Now, for those that follow me on Instagram at CJ's Aquariums, you guys have been getting exclusive live streams and updates on this tank, and including the calibration of these probes. Now, I'm mentioning that because these probes were dry for almost 9 months. And there's a thing in the hobby where people are saying, hey, if your Apex probes are dry, you got to replace them, you got to buy new ones. So I decided to test them on my own, and so far the calibration is holding. 9-month dry probes, doing good so far. So I want to share that with anyone that's out there, wondering if your probes may be good or if you got to just buy new ones every time. I'm not really sold on that yet, but to be continued. We'll find out more later down the road when we add salt water to the tank. Quick update on the skimmer. Last update I shared that this thing came in damaged. Well, 2 days later, I received a brand new skimmer body in the mail, replacement parts courtesy of Cadlights support. So shout out to you guys. I appreciate the quick turnaround and getting that issue resolved for me. And I was finally able to fire this thing up. And just out of the gate, with everything attached to the tank, turning it on, Skimmer's very, very quiet. You can barely hear anything. A small hum from the motor, but you can't hear any of the airline. And adjusting it appears to be pretty damn easy. Literally just twist the skimmer body, it changes the water level, and you can raise it up to the neck. So I'm really interested in seeing how this does when we add salt water to the tank. Keep in mind, I just have fresh tap water in here and a little bit of vinegar in the system to help break stuff in. So to be continued on the skimmer, but so far the functionality appears to be, well thought out, and it's a solid piece of equipment. Now, when it comes to my previous systems, I've been really particular about keeping the equipment in the sump, especially items that could potentially leak or overflow, like skimmers. In my last system, I even had my calcium reactor in the sump. Well, we're stepping outside the box this build. We're trying something new, and I've set up my UV sterilizer on the system. What you guys are seeing is the input and output, It's actually being fed by a maxi jet inside the sump, and it's routed to drain back into the sump at the same time. I've decided to mount it on the wall outside of the tank for a couple of reasons. The first being ease of access. If I need to change this bulb, I don't have to reach or try to pick this thing up, from somewhere hard to reach. Literally lift it out the wall and handle business. Second reason, if it decided to leak, it's not going to have a potential to spray all over my Apex controller or, damage the stand. I just felt it's safer to keep it outside the tank. And so far, I'm happy with how it looks. Now, one interesting thing I want to share with anyone trying to get these JBJs, the back panel is pillable or removable. Now, I mention this because this Hog 1 scrubber is a hang on the glass algae scrubber. So I needed some way to have the light penetrate the back wall and actually, grow the algae inside the tank like I want. So, pulling the tank out, getting a nice razor blade, cleaning the area out, wasn't too hard to do. Now the goal was to just cut a space big enough for the scrubber without allowing light to bleed out, and cover the entire sump, because I don't want algae everywhere. I just want it to grow inside the algae scrubber. Now to help with, replacing this thing, or if I happen to have it fall off or something, I did put some points of contact that I don't have to see, but I can reach back and kind of feel the groove to replace this algae scrubber if I do have to, remove the LEDs for some other reason down the road. But honestly, I'm never going to do that unless those lights fail for some reason or I have to replace them. The only part I'm going to be removing is what's inside the tank, when it comes time to harvest or when it comes time to make some changes as far as to the scrubber itself. That all's done inside the tank. So kind of give you guys a look at what it looks like. Lights are super bright. This is my first time looking at them through the water like this. So whatever happens, I have no doubt the lights will be strong enough. And I'm really curious to see how this scrubber performs. Now, two things I want to make note of. The first one being, this is an air-driven algae scrubber. So you will have noise from these bubbles escaping the box. You can mitigate that noise different ways, raising it in the water surface or trying to put something to help catch the bubbles as they escape it. But it's definitely something worth noting. And the second thing I want to mention is the need of a check valve. Keep in mind, the air pump is way below the water level. If for some reason that air pump stopped pushing air and somehow a siphon started, it will be big trouble. So do not forget your check valves. Always install a check valve in a situation where you can get a siphon. I feel it's very important to test every piece of equipment you can when you do your water test. Don't just focus on the tank leaking. Take this opportunity to check everything, including your auto top off. Now keep in mind, I have this setup running through my Apex, breakout box, just a normal float switch, the P-mump, and just a little bit of programming. And this is the same setup I use on the 120. I've built in some safety rules, if the pump runs longer than this amount of time. I may add extra floats later, but mainly making sure that the auto top off works, and it looks like it checked out just fine. Last piece of equipment I want to share with you guys is going to be the Finnex 200 watt titanium heater. Now remember, it is titanium, so I don't have to worry about dropping it or having it explode in my tank. And it has the cool digital readout. I really love this. And I have it mounted on the side of the tank, easy to view. Of course, I have my Apex to check the temperature on, but I like just having a visual reference and controller external of the tank. So this definitely fits the bill. Really like these Finnex heaters. So if you ever are looking for one, I will highly recommend them. So how's the flow, from these return pumps on the JBJ? It said they were rated for 266 gallons each, and there's dual pumps on this system. But I was really surprised by how much water they're actually moving. It's almost borderline too much, which is kind of funny because you guys know I love a ton of flow in my systems. And speaking of flow, really appreciate all the feedback on the polls I've put out as far as the type of power head I put in this tank. So I've made that decision. The pumps are on the way, and I'll be sharing that with you all soon, doing a full review and walkthrough of the flow of those pumps on this system. So stay tuned on that. Just want to give a shout out to everyone that took a moment to give their input and their opinion on that. Now, after adding water to the tank, I finally got a realistic idea of what these radions look like. And by look like, I mean the actual spread with water, the shimmer, and just the overall coverage. So, you know, you definitely can get away with 2. If you really, you know, could not do 3, 2 is plenty for this system. Honestly, even 1 could potentially be enough depending on your scape and depending on the type of corals and how high you mount the light. I think 1 actually would be enough for you if you really wanted to do it that way. Now, I have had the opportunity to use diffusers, and honestly, they just did not do it for me. You know, I like the shimmer without them, and I like not having the light put in my face, which is something I noticed they did on this system. So, with that being said, par measurements are coming later. As soon as I get this tank aquascaped, I'm going to answer those questions as far as coral placement and par readings for you guys. So at this point, guys, everything has been connected. You know, wires ran, apex boards mounted. The only thing I have not had a chance to leak test is going to be the calcium reactor. I'm waiting until I get a better feed pump for it. You know, I'm looking into the Chemours, the peristaltic pumps. Hopefully I can secure one of those, but honestly, not in too big of a hurry. You know, you don't really need a calcium reactor until you get something that's sucking up calcium and magnesium and, you know, elements. So I'm going to hold off on that for now. Now, one thing I do want to mention is going to be the amount of plugs I've already taken up on this tank. You know, the more equipment you have, the more sophisticated you want to be, the more outlets and the more electricity you're going to use. So I've tried to divide mine between a power strip on the bottom and the apex power bar up top. So everything that's going to be consistently on is on the bottom. You know, most of my recirculating pumps, most of my air pumps, most of my, you know, pumps that go through equipment that I need on consistently, I have running through there. And as far as the apex, things I'm going to put on timers is what I'm running on that. So most of my bulbs, as far as the light for my UV, the light for my algae scrubber, you know, anything that can overflow, all of those kind of things are running through the apex. So I'm going to end up having a bunch of plugs, but I believe I can get the entire system wired up and you know, everything powered from just the power strip and the EB8. Now, something else I want to share with you guys is going to be these convenience hooks. You know, some cheap hooks I found on Amazon, but keeping things nice and neat is going to be the mission for this tank. You know, ease of access. So I got on my nets, my scraper on the right side. On the left side, I'm thinking about some Be Easy towels. That's right. You know, a towel close to the tank. You know you're going to have your hands in there. You're going to be doing stuff. You want to dry your hands off. I'm thinking a Be Easy towel is coming soon. And when that happens, I'll be the first one to let you guys know. But that's pretty much the sump setup, you know, the stand setup, and the entire tank setup, at least at this point. So now that all the build parts are out of the way, it's funny saying that, right? We're done building the tank. It took me 2 months to build my 120 gallon. This one, an all-in-one, already done in 3 videos flat, right? Well, it's the perfect time for you guys to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure you don't miss future updates. Because I already have my rock work. I'm already coming up with a new master plan for aquascaping this system, and live streams will also be returning for live stream Q&As and random updates, you know, in between the real updates on this tank. So definitely, you know, stick around. It's going to get fun from here. And as always, you guys like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing.